Um, Welcome to this masterclass on facilitating remote workshops. My name is Marianne, and I'm really looking forward to diving into today's topic with you. First, let me start by giving you a bit of background on myself and why this subject is so relevant to me. Well, I was a student during the pandemic, having to navigate online learning and adjusting to the sudden shift to remote everything. So it was a strange time for all of us, of course, but it taught us a lot about challenges and opportunities that come with remote environment. Like the first opportunity was that I could start applying for jobs during my studies in bachelor's, and soon after, as a result of that, I started working as a content marketer in an office setting. And this was still during the pandemic. And while many of us, me and my coworkers, wanted to transition to remote work, our organization wasn't convinced that we could be as productive online. So we continued working in person. And I remember this discussion of whether remote work could really deliver the same result was always ongoing. So not long after that, I moved into hybrid role as a business analyst, and that where I was started seeing firsthand how remote work could enhance flexibility, but also introduced a new set of challenges in terms of collaboration and productivity. Now I work fully remotely as a product owner for Join Momentum. And I said all of that to say that having experienced both sides, first as a student and then as an in-office employee, and now working entirely remotely, I've been in the position of both presenter and participant in remote workshops. So I know the frustrations and benefits, of course, that come with each role. And now I want to share some strategies to help make remote workshops more engaging and productive. Because now remote work is becoming more prevalent and permanent part of our professional lives. And it's important to note that now 74% of companies globally are either planning to or already using a permanent hybrid or fully remote model. So it's crucial for us to get better at it. And I'd love to know here about your thoughts as well, whether as a student, employer, or manager. So let's dive in. So our agenda today meetings is first introduction. What are remote workshops and why are they important? And then we're gonna discuss the challenges of remote workshops and then how to overcome those challenges with pre-workshop preparation, facilitation techniques for remote engagement, mastering virtual tools, managing group dynamics, and then some actionable takeaways, and then your turn to ask questions and discuss the topic. So, what are remote workshops? A remote workshop is a virtual meeting where a group collaborates to solve problems, innovate, and make decisions. Why are they important? So, of course, they increase flexibility by allowing global participation. They save costs on travel and event logistics. And of course, they boost diversity of thought by enabling wider participation across regions and time zones. So, now I want to know what's your experience with remote workshops? What's been your biggest challenge? But since we're, I think, out of time, we can skip this for now and then later you'll share your experience on this in the next section. Here we have some challenges of remote workshops. And while I'm mentioning these, you can think of which one of these resonates more with you. The first challenge is engagement drops. A research by Harvard Business Review showed that virtual meeting fatigue sets in after 30 to 40 minutes, especially in passive meetings, in passive settings. And later we're going to tell how we can turn into an active setting. Lack of nonverbal cues. this is the most challenging part for me as well, at least. Because body language and facial expressions are harder to read in virtual settings. And it's interesting to know that 55% of communication, according to this report by Forbes, is nonverbal. So we don't have that in virtual setting. And we have to replace that with some other techniques that we'll discuss. The next one is tech fatigue. This report of Microsoft Work Trend Index shows that virtual meetings has increased by 148% since the onset of pandemic, contributing to digital overload and tech fatigue. Next one is time zones. I'm sure we all have struggled with that. And this is actually cited as a top challenge in 42% of global organizations. And the last one is, we saw that today as well, technical issues about connectivity, audio, and tool malfunction that can disrupt the flow. So, do you want to, I should come here to see your chat. Do you want to tell me which challenge resonates with you more? And yeah, time zone. What else? Between engagement drops, lack of nonverbal cues, tech fatigue, and technical issues. Yeah, tech fatigue is relevant as well. Nonverbal, yeah. Because you don't understand whether the person you're talking to is actually listening or not. Are they engaged? Especially I saw the struggle for university professors as well. So yeah. People not speaking, especially when I ask, do you understand? Yeah. Yeah. And this problem of time zones happened for myself a couple of times, which I thought the meeting is another time, but because of different time zones. Yeah, so now how should we overcome the so-called challenges? The first thing to note is pre-workshop preparation is one of the important ones. You should define clear purpose and outcomes. What's the goal of your workshop? Every participant should know the objectives beforehand. And examples of these objectives are whether this workshop is for decision making, for idea generation, for problem solving. It should be clear, and every participant should know that in advance. You should select the right tools and match the tools to the nature of the workshop. For example, if you're going for video conferencing, Zoom and Teams are recommended, or like if you're having a brainstorming session, you can use Miro, Mural, Jamboard, and Poll Everywhere and Slido for real-time polls to increase engagement. The third thing is that you should prepare materials ahead of time. You should send the agenda, background reading, and technical instructions before the session. I don't know if you've heard of Amazon memo policy. It basically suggests that Jeff Bezos wrote a letter for the whole Amazon workers that they need to prepare a 6-pager memo before each meeting, and at the beginning of each meeting, all the participants should read that memo in silent, and then they'll start a meeting afterwards. And this is to confirm that everyone's on the same page and everyone knows that what the meeting is actually about. And of course, in this way, the engagement will be more relevant and will increase. And here we're not saying that you prepare a 6-page memo, but the point is that everyone should be on the same page, right? Even as a like predefined agenda or one-pager memo, but everyone should know exactly what we're going to talk about. And they have thought before the meeting about it. Yeah, the next thing is preparing visuals and interaction boards in advance. So, of course, these things I told about Amazon is true for the in-person meetings, but more in online setup, because in online, with all the tech fatigue and all of the connectivity problems, you don't want to waste any time. So the efficiency is more important. And the last thing is inviting the right people. You should ensure that all the decision makers, key stakeholders, and relevant participants are in the room, and you should avoid overloading with too many participants. The next thing is facilitation techniques for remote engagement. Here are some techniques that will help you increase the engagement in the remote setting. The first one is starting with an icebreaker question. Something like, how are you feeling today? Or, I don't know, how's the weather where you live now? Or something like that. I wanted to do that in this session, but because of technical problems, didn't happen. But yeah, this helped to engage everyone at first place and then continue with that high engagement level. The next thing is setting clear ground rules. Of course, according to your organization policy, it's explaining how participants should interact, whether they should keep cameras on if possible, if that's what your organization wants, or use chats for side conversations, mute when not speaking but stay attentive. These are the things you can set clear rules for them. The third technique is using breakout rooms effectively, especially for large meetings, dividing participants into smaller groups for discussions and brainstorming might help. And to do that more efficiently, you can assign a specific task and time limit to maintain the focus. This works in like study session in universities as well, or in brainstorming sessions between large groups. The next technique is frequent check-ins. Asking open-ended questions and call on a specific participant to answer. For example, Mariam, what do you think of this approach? This way everyone knows that they need to keep paying attention because they may be called. So, and the last one is, of course, maintaining energy. You should keep presentations under 15 minutes, and using tools like polls, quizzes, and interactive whiteboards to keep people engaged will help with the maintaining energy. So here, we're not going to dive into technical side of things too much. We just want to say that because now video conferencing is the like big part of workplace, you should master any platform you're choosing to do video conferencing or you meeting with, like Zoom or Teams, because according to Gartner, 58% of companies now rely on video conferencing tools for over half of their meetings. You can, through workshops for mastering the techniques of these applications in your organizations as well. Some collaboration tools that help with brainstorming and increasing engagement are like Miro and Mural, which we mentioned, and polling and feedback tools like Slido and Mentimeter for real-time feedback. Also, having a co-facilitator will help with managing the chat and asking questions, and also reducing tech-related delays. So this third one, which can be the most challenging one, is managing group dynamics in remote settings. Encouraging inclusive participation is the thing that can help with efficiency of the meeting, and using tools like a virtual hand raising function or assign a speaking order to ensure everyone contributes. You can use methods like round robin method or pass the mic strategies. They can help to the fact that everyone actually says something. I searched about this round robin method. It was interesting. It basically suggests that if I'm saying an idea, the next person should criticize or explain my idea, and the next person on the previous person's idea. So this way, you build ideas on each other's ideas. This way, you will listen to each other and also brainstorm and keep being active during the meeting. And everyone actually participates this way. The second thing is dealing with dominating participant. I'm sure you have encountered those. And the way you can deal with them is to politely guide the conversation back to others by saying something like, "That's a great point, Mariam. I'd love to hear from others too." Well, yeah. And the third point is addressing technical difficulties. You should always have a backup plan. Like if you couldn't share your screen, or if you couldn't connect, or if your presentation wasn't there, you should always have a backup plan for that. And like act on it proactively, like before the meeting, 15 minutes before the meeting. And the last but not least is time management. It says here assign a timekeeper, but whether you're assigning a timekeeper or paying attention to time yourself is really important, because research suggests that sticking to strict time slots in meetings improves focus and outcomes by 35%. So it's really important. And here's some actionable takeaways. Preparation is the key. Clearly define the purpose and choose the right tools. Use interactive techniques to maintain energy. Master virtual tools to facilitate collaboration. And proactively manage participation and technical challenges. Some actionable steps for them are trying a new facilitation technique, like icebreaker questions or polling or getting feedback in your next workshop. Use a pre-workshop checklist to improve your preparation process. And now you can reflect on which challenge affects your team most and plan to implement one solution for that. So now it's your turn to ask anything you want and discuss this topic. Thank you for listening. Me here. Yeah, we have a comment about Base's strategy.
Yeah, so everyone has the floor. You can unmute yourself. And if you have a question or you have a contribution, please, this is the time. I think Motorayo is up. Okay, I'll mute myself. Motorayo, over to you.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay, okay. I saw you unmuted yourself. All right. Does anybody have any question for Miriam or anything you want to discuss around facilitating workshops remotely, not physically, remotely? Okay, somebody is raising their hand. I don't know who that is. Please unmute yourself and just ask the question.
Right, thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Maria. I just want to ask that when you were talking about collaboration tools, I saw Mural. I just want to ask, is Jira part of that? And is there, like, can you just briefly talk about which one is the best? Like, is there any one that is best suited for a particular purpose?
Well, as far as I know, Jira's for project management, but what we were discussing today was participating during the meeting. So if you want to do that, like at the same time, Mural, for example, gives you the option to do so. On the same document, you can collaborate and write your thoughts. Or Miro, for example, it gives you opportunity to do polls and get feedback, like similar to Morale. Or Slido is specifically for getting feedback or doing polls. So yeah, it's a difference between Jira and those tools in that sense.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Very good answer. Um, I think somebody else has a question, but before the next question, just to add to what Miriam said, as a supporting facilitator for Miriam's session, Jira is a project management tool. Very, very correct. I think in context of what we're discussing, if you are running a workshop, right, and your workshop is about maybe brainstorming or trying to solve a problem or trying to find a way forward or whatever the topic might be, Jira might not be ideal. However, if your workshop, the context of your workshop is, for example, in your organization or in the team that you're working in, they are using Jira and you guys want to do maybe sprint planning and you want to plan your project and what who's going to do what. Yeah, of course, you can then bring up your Jira and then you can do that in the context of the session. So in terms of running workshops and getting people to contribute or discussing ideas or concepts or whatnot, Jira might not be best suited for that, just like what Miriam said. But in terms of if your workshop is specifically to plan your work and the team is using Jira or the organization is using Jira, then bring Jira up on the screen and use it to do your planning or your project management activities, if that makes sense. Yeah, over to Coin. Coin has a question. Please unmute yourself and speak. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I see Fumi also has written a question here. But please,
Okay,
cool.
okay. So let's take Coin, then you can come to Fumi's question afterwards. Hi, Coin. Can you unmute yourself? Are you able to speak? We can see your hand. No.
You can also type in the chat box if chat
Yeah, yeah,
box.
yeah. So okay, I think she's unmuted now. No, we can't hear you. Do you want to take Fumi's question, Miriam? Then we come back to Coin. Yeah.
Yeah, she asked that what happens when you have many dominating participants in your meeting? Well, this is good thing and bad thing at the same time because you have increased participation, but at the same time, maybe you cannot get your point get your final point or get to where you want to be at the meeting. So what I would suggest is that among those ground rules which you can explain to your team, you can set a time for each person to talk. Like each person can talk for like, I don't know, 5 minutes or 3 minutes, depending on the meeting's duration, and then some rules like that, or a person can talk like cannot interrupt others while talking, and yeah, this comes to my mind. I also have read about this setting time for each person before, but yeah, Victor, if you have other suggestion, please.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Um, I think ground rules will help to manage expectations. I mean, we're talking about remote setting. So if somebody is, or if a few people are dominating participants, I guess is a good thing. And then if dominating maybe is a bad side, but at least the fact that you have people engaged and speaking, that's a good thing. Because like I said earlier, if people are not saying anything and they're not communicating, you don't even want that, because then it's like you're the one just talking and nobody seems to be engaging or understanding what it is you're saying. So having some ground rules to say, if you want to say something, please raise your hand first before, like for example, you can see people would. So most of these remote meet session tools, you have the button to raise your hand if you want to say something. I think it's just the right thing to do. And most people are getting used to it. So if you press the button, then the facilitator will know that you need to speak. And for example, on Microsoft Teams, I noticed that it does the numbering for you. So the person that raised their hand first, if somebody else raises their hand, it puts the number to say number one, number two, number three. You can literally see who you should call first, so that people don't feel like maybe you're being partial, or you're not maybe calling them, they've been raising their hands for a long time and all that type of stuff. So the tools are there to help you. So I think setting the ground, I say, if you want to speak, instead of just unmuting yourself and just going on about whatever, interrupting the flow of what somebody is saying, raise your hand. Then they will come to you when the opportunity arises. And making that clear at the beginning of your meeting or during your meeting even is super important. The other thing I've found to work, when somebody, maybe they're sharing something, you don't want to come across as telling them not to speak, and you don't want to come across as telling them that they are talking too much, right? Because you don't want to be rude. So finding is important to be diplomatic as well, to bring people back to the point of the meeting. So, for example, if I'm facilitating a session remotely, and we are discussing something on a particular point, and somebody is bringing something up that is not, maybe not very relevant to the point we are on, even though it might be relevant to the rest of the meeting or the other part of the meeting, I can say, you know what, can we hold that thought for a second? We will come back to that in a moment, once we are, once we lock this one down, once we finish with this. So that way, you are not saying that I don't want you to speak. You're saying, let's not muddle things up. Let's be very clear. And honestly, if you have an engaged meeting, you are better off than not having, than having a passive one, really. So I would say it's a good thing that people are engaged, but you can manage it as a facilitator, just basically bringing people back to the center of the conversation, which is the agenda, the reason why we are here. Let's focus on it. Anything else that is not taking us to this point, we don't want to spend too much energy on it. Uh, and if it requires that, okay, you know what, this one is a very good point. We don't have the right people to discuss this one now, or that can make a decision on it now. Can we take that away? I will document it. I will capture it, so that it's not like I'm not hearing you. I will put it down, and then we will come back to it, or we'll take it to another meeting, or we will set up a separate conversation for the right, with the right people, for that kind of thing. So that way you bring a balance to the meeting. And I think that's the biggest part of your job as a facilitator in a remote meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Victor. Next question is for workshops, there seems to be a number of tools: Google Meet, StreamYard, or Zoom. Kindly speak on their suitability for what types of gathering, like webinars, workshops, normal meetings, etc. Please, what is the name of a tool we are using for this workshop? You could also make that person the time count, the dominant person. Yep. So I just did a little search on that. Seems that a Google Meet is best for small to medium-sized meetings or workshops where collaboration is the focus, especially for the internal meetings. While StreamYard is ideal for webinars, live broadcasts, and panel discussions for larger audience on social media, for example. Best for events where interaction is limited and professional branded presentation is required. And Zoom, the most versatile platform for interactive workshops, large meetings, and webinars. And it's really good in facilitating engagement throughout breakout rooms, polling, and participant feedback. So it's perfect for those both internal and large public events.
Amazing stuff. There's a question there that says, "What is the name of the of the tool we are using?" So the tool we are using for this workshop is called Train. If you look in your browser, you will see the name Join Momentum. So there's a third-party application called Trainer Central. That's the name of the platform that we host our training, our coaching, everything that we do in Join Momentum. That's where we host it. But for our day-to-day work, of course, we are always on Microsoft Teams, or we used to be on Google, but we decided to move to Microsoft for security reasons and whatnot. Anyway, but yeah. Connie, can you speak now? Are you able? Did you fix your mic?
I think you should restart, like me.
Like you, yeah. I don't think she's audible. Yeah, I can see that a microphone is open, but then I can't hear what she's saying. Yeah. So Connie, you might need to type into the chat as we're about to wrap up the session. Any other questions? Let's give Connie a minute to type a question in the chat, and then we'll wrap up. Guys, I want to say thank you. Let's all give emojis to Miriam, please, before we finish. Miriam, you've done an amazing job. I can imagine, the tension when you had technical problems at the start. uh, you know. So I think it's you did it. You did it. So well done to you. Well done to you. The presentation, and you also tried to, even though sped through the slides, but I think we got the message. Um, are you happy to? Up to you,
Thank
Miriam. If you want to share the slides, I think we can attach it. I don't know how to do it, but we'll figure it out. We can attach the presentation onto the platform so people can download it. Everybody who registers should be able to download it. Is that okay with you, Miriam?
yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
okay, fantastic. And then the recording, of course, will also be available after the session. Please, if you're on the call before we close, there is a poll that comes to you at the end of the session. We want your feedback. It does help us to identify ways that we can improve this masterclass series. I think the session next week we are talking about SEO, search engine optimization. If you don't know what that is, or you're trying to figure out how to do it, don't miss the next week's session. If you want to make it, go to the website now on accelerator.johnmomentum.co.uk. Look for the sessions there, and of course, get yourself registered for next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. There's a question for you there, Miriam, before we close. from
Yeah.
Connie. I think that's what she was trying to ask. Can you say it?
Yeah, 3 of my favorite icebreaker questions, right? Well, that can be anything. Like, if you have a specific topic in work today, for example, you had a, I don't know, controversial matter in the work, you can ask them, how are you feeling after that meeting? Or how are you feeling about that? Or how was your day today? Or how are you feeling about today's meeting? Or about, I don't know, where they live, the situation there, the weather, everything. That can be everything. You can also, I mean, search about icebreaker. I'll search myself. Yeah, that can be anything. Anything that's
Yeah.
not work. Yeah.
Weather. I find weather to be very easy because, yeah, weather is good because people
Well,
have different experiences wherever they are joining from. But you ask, there's very good suggestions there, Miriam. Thank you. I think somebody also suggested in the chat. Let me see. Tell them to say 3 things. One being a truth, 2 others that are lies, and ask the rest to figure it out. Okay, yeah, that's a good game to play to break the ice. Yeah, but you want to make sure that you time it anyway so it doesn't run over.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
our time is up. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Again, big ups to you, Miriam. Well done, and I'll see you all. I'll see all of you later. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you, everyone, for joining. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.